What's going on, Straight Talk Faithful? Your host, George McKay. I'm in the building again with another fantastic interview with another great upcoming indie talent via phone. I'd like to welcome to Straight Talk Wrestling, Krystal Moon. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I am fantastic. Thank you so much for taking the time out today to talk with me.
Well, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Well, no problem. I've actually been, like I let most of my listeners know, I've been affiliated with Crossbody Pro now for a little bit of time, and actually got to do guest commentary a couple weeks ago. And I've seen so far about 3 or 4 of your matches. My 2 favorite ones were most recent, the triple threat match you had to crown the first women's Crossbody Pro champion. Didn't unfortunately go your way. Alexia Nicole won that one. And then I saw the rematch with you and her just a couple weeks ago, and both matches were incredible.
Well, thank you. She stole that first one, I must say.
Yeah,
but you know, she's a crafty one, that girl. But yeah, you know what? Like Crossbody's my home. I train there 2 to 3 times a week, and the opportunities that they've given me are incredible. So getting to work with someone like her so early on in my career, I'm very fortunate. So.
Yeah, and you know what? You're no slouch yourself by any standpoint, my dear. I could see the hard work and all the time you're putting in, and you're going to be able to take that title from her one day. I have no doubt about that.
Exactly. My time's coming, so.
So I always ask everyone that I interview, my very first question I always ask, it's the standard one, all my listeners know it. It's the defining moment question. Because everyone has the defining moment where they fell in love with wrestling. Do you remember your defining moment?
I don't remember, like, specifically. My older sister, Veronica, actually got me into wrestling. So I have a big family, but she specifically, like, she sat me down at a young age and, like, watched wrestling. I remember being, like, a really big fan of Kane. I think just, like, his larger-than-life personality, I remember, like, just wanting to watch him. But I think once I saw Rey Mysterio, probably his debut match in WWE with Chavo Guerrero, I think just seeing him, and I was, obsessed at that point. I watched him, and I'm like, who is this? And, like, why is he, like, my life now? So I think once I really saw Rey Mysterio, I think that really just set it off for me.
And that's a great person to admire, a great wrestler, a great career that he's had, a future Hall of Famer for sure. Is there any other influences you had other than Rey Mysterio?
I think most people's answer, Eddie Guerrero. He just literally embodies everything, like, pro wrestling, like, his in-ring style, his personality, his, like, work ethic, everything, even his determination, how he, you know, comes back from hell and back to come back and to win the championship. I don't really cry, like, I'm not a big crier, but when he won against Brock Lesnar, I cry. I cry watching it.
It's like most wrestling fans cry now just watching Brock Lesnar on TV because he's stale as a post and he's not very exciting.
I know. I'm like, go back to that. Like, watching that match, I'm like, you had so much, like, character. You had more than 3 moves. Like, come on. But definitely, like, Rey and Eddie are, like, my top 2. And then Edge, Christian, Hardy Boys, Lita, Trish. Like, I was really big. The Attitude Era. So those are my top, but definitely, like, Rey and Eddie are my, like, go-to that got me into wrestling, got me my passion for wrestling, so.
Well, and you can see that in your wrestling ability. Anybody that's listening could check out the Crossbody page on YouTube. All of her recent matches are up there. The 2 I mentioned specifically at the beginning of the show. And you can definitely see that you definitely have a little bit of the lucha flavor in how you wrestle and how you maneuver around the ring. But one thing that impresses me the most about you, and I don't know if a lot of people see it as a misconception, but your speed. You are dangerously quick to the point where sometimes I don't even realize that. Like, I usually sit in the corner in the far right turnbuckle, right next to the wall there across body. And there was one time where Alexia was down in the corner and you came over with those knees and you just hit her. And I was just like, damn, that felt like 1 second before, boom, you were there. Your speed is definitely a force, for sure.
I appreciate that. Yeah, Lucha Libre has definitely been an influence for me style-wise. I actually have, like, my half-sleeve tattoo is, like, a female luchador. a lot of people think it's like Catwoman. I'm like, no, it's a lucha libre. I'm like, it's good for wrestling. So like, definitely big influence, and I watch a lot of that. So trying to incorporate that into my style is really important to me. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem. So you mentioned that crossbody was your home, and that crossbody is where you train 2 to 3 times a week. Is that where you started?
Yeah. So I have a really, like, I always tell my story. It's a fun little story. So I'm originally from Sault Ste. Marie. So about 3 years ago, I had like an epiphany, and I realized I'm like, I want to live my life. Like, I'm tired of living everybody else's life, what everybody else wants to do. I did the school thing. I graduated. I did the adultish standard thing to do. And I had an epiphany, and I said, you know what? Screw this. I'm going to live my life. I'm going to live my dream as a professional wrestler, because I don't want to live my life with regret anymore. So I came down. I met Ben, and we like sat and talked for a little bit about wrestling and what the training looked like. And that was in May 3 years ago. I moved down to Kitchener with my best friend and I. In August, I left everything behind, and I started training. It'll be 3 years this August. Got a little truck, moved down, got an apartment, and that's pretty much it. And I've been at Crossbody ever since.
Amazing. That's what you call literally taking the bull by the horns and just picking up. Was it a big decision to make, to say, you know what, I'm going to do this, to leave everything behind? Was that hard to do?
Honestly, no. Like I met Ben at their older facility, not the one on 69 Agnes here in Kitchener. It was somewhere in Waterloo. I can't really remember, but I sat down and I talked with him, and we just we clicked and we talked, and I was on the bus home, and I'm like, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do it. And I went home and I told my parents, I'm like, so this is my plan. They're like, we're not going to be able to stop you, are we? I'm like, no, this is what I'm doing. And like, I love Sault Ste. Marie. It's a great little town, but like, if you don't get out, you're stuck there, and I never want to feel stuck. So I kind of just packed up my things, and I'm like, okay, bye mom, bye dad, love you, see you later. And I left that summer.
So that's a big geographical area. So just out of curiosity, was there not a school closer to where you were?
Trying to think. I don't think so. I think I just wanted to be closer to like Toronto, because I just knew at that time that scene is so big that I wanted to be able to have more options. But I don't think so. Like Northern Ontario up there's not a ton. So even like when I would go back home and I tell people, I'm like, yeah, I'm training for like wrestling or whatever, they would have no idea. They still have no idea.
So you picked up, you moved, you started training. Yep. What was one of the first things that you actually, you know what? Better question. The first bump. Mm-hmm. I love the answers that I get about the first bump. So you step it in for your first day of training, you take that first bump. What went through your head when you hit the mat for the first time?
It was, I'll live through my first day of training. So I go there, I'm the only girl. And I'm like, okay, fantastic, cool. Okay, cool. So we do cards. So most wrestlers will know this. So it was Ben Ortmans was there, and Chris Tidwell, and we did cards. So each set, like the hearts, diamonds, all those, the suits are different exercise. So it was like push-ups, sit-ups, crunches. It was awful. And it was in August, so it was hot. And I'm like doing my first set of push-ups, and I hate push-ups. I still to this day hate them. I'm like, what am I doing with my life? Is this really, I'm like, I'm not even in the ring yet. I'm like, okay, Lacey, keep going. So we finish that, and we get in there, and we like learn rolls and everything's fine. And like for the first bump, so they gradually like elevate it. So the first one's like crouching, and then you take the bump. So my first one, and as I do it, they're like touch your chin and breathe out. And I'm like, okay, simple, like so simple, like whatever. I do it, I don't do either. And I lay there, and they're like, you didn't do either, did you? I'm like, no. They're like, you want to get up and do it again? I'm like, yep. They're like, okay, good. So I do it again, and I gradually get better. So once I got that concept down, it's like you get up a little bit higher, and then eventually it's like a true back bump, and you're standing. So I did my first like true back bump, and I'm like, this sucks. but I love this. This is what I want to do. And I just got through it, but it sucked. Specifically, I remember doing one of my first like flip bumps, or like called the kitchen sink. So like knee to the stomach, flip over the knee, right?
Yeah.
And awful. I like landed on the back of my head, and I kind of laid there, and then I'm questioning my life decisions. I was like, what am I doing? And I scared myself, and I'm like, oh no, and I roll out, and I start tearing up because I'm kind of embarrassed, and then like I just messed up, and I'm like, what am I doing? Am I done? I took a second, I had to like walk around. I'm like, no, talk yourself out of the tree, and I just got over it. So like, you question your life decisions, and then you realize wrestling's the best thing in your life, so you get back to it. So
that's pretty awesome. The fact that you made some mistakes, you were freely admitting that you made the mistakes, and you worked even harder.
Yeah.
You worked even harder to get better, and that's when you have it. You got to be just crazy enough to be a fan of this sport that we all love. But then to actually get in there and do it, you've got to definitely have that little extra bit of craziness in you. And I don't take anything away for anybody I interview, because everybody that does that stuff in the ring, people who aren't wrestling fans don't get it. They don't know what the body goes through. They don't know how much work and effort go into it. They just say, oh, well, it's fixed because the matches are choreographed, and the winners are predetermined. Yes, winners and losers are predetermined, but the risks inside the ring are real. And
exactly. And
no, go ahead.
And like recently at my job, I just started a job, and I was trying to tell these little old ladies about what I do, why I need certain days off, and I'm like, yeah, I wrestle. They're like, oh, like what kind of wrestling? Like the actual wrestling or like the fake wrestling? And like I'm trying to be calm about this. I'm like, it's not fake. They're like, well, I'm like, it's not fake. But they're like, don't you know who wins? I was like, yeah. I'm like, but I still take risks. I was like, I still needed to go to a school to learn to do things safely and to like take care of my brothers, right? Like, and I needed to learn specific things. And I'm like, I can still get hurt. Like, I have bruises all over my body. They're like, well, and they just don't get it. I'm like, okay, this is all I can tell you before I get hot about it. So,
and that's when you look over as a wrestler. You're like, there's a chair here, but there's a fax machine here. Now, if I put the chair on the fax machine, I can get enough height to give somebody an elbow drop and knock them out cold.
Exactly. And I can just go home. I can go home for the day.
That's right. You can go home with pay if you're lucky, because your boss will be so afraid of you that they're not going to even try to screw with you at that point.
Oh, exactly. It's fantastic.
So you got into wrestling when there was I want to say an evolution, to be cliche. You started training when the bubble of female wrestlers was just starting to percolate, and they were starting to get noticed and taken seriously. The days of brawn penny matches, pillow fights, swimsuit competitions, and 1-minute matches were over. We started to see fatal four-ways, last woman standings, Iron Woman matches. We started to see the women go from mid-card or first match of the night to second main event or main event status.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So was this, when you started training and you started seeing this resurgence, did this make you work even harder? Because now the kind of excuses of, oh, well, women aren't given a fair chance, those days were gone. Now the women were like, okay, you know what? Not only are we going to be given the opportunities, but we're going to take them. We're going to rise above them. We're going to over-exceed the expectations. And then we're going to come back and we're going to knock down the next door.
Oh, exactly, yeah. It definitely made me work 10 times harder because there was a big spotlight on women's wrestling and even intergender wrestling, right? So, like, we got more opportunities to be on more cards, more women's matches, intergender matches, all these different things. So it definitely made me work harder. And at Crossbody, like I said, I am one of the only women training. There is another one as well. Her name is Sarah. But I was always, from day one, like, you train like everybody else. You work like everybody else. Like, you know, it's the funniest thing. It's always like, at least the running joke, Tid says it, that I have bigger balls than most of the guys in training. But, it's, you know, but, like, you train like everybody else. You work as like anybody else. You pay your dues like everybody else, and things will work out, right? But, like, now that specifically women's wrestling is huge and everybody's paying attention to it, and it's a lot of the times the most anticipated match of the night, it's fantastic, and it makes me work harder. It motivates me. to put together great matches and try different things and things like that. Like I've even like recently, like the couple matches that you have mentioned, we've been like semi-main events. So like just going like the last matches, Alexia and I just going before like Holden Albright and Frankie the Beast, like, and it was one of the most anticipated matches, and you get big pops and crowd reactions, right? So having that spotlight on women's wrestling, especially so new to my career, is fantastic.
So new to your career, but you've already wrestled some big names, and I've seen you in some intergender matches as well, and we'll get into that. But in terms of the indie scene right now as it is, and the females that are out there, because it still is kind of small when it comes to the female rosters that we have. If there's anybody out there right now that you would love to just get into the ring with, no title on the line, just mix it up for pride, indie-wise, who would it be? Who's your dream indie match?
I'm trying to think, because I've got the opportunity to work some really great girls around here. Let me think. That's the question. Like one-on-one, I worked her in a triple threat with Jody Threat a couple months, maybe a year ago. And she is over in the UK right now. But honestly, like Sylvia Sparks, she's crazy. She's so good, and she's a beast. So I would love to work her and see our different styles mashing together. I would love to work her when she comes back. That's definitely a dream opponent. And I haven't worked with Casey Spinelli in a while, and she's honestly like my absolute favorite person. She's really like helped me in my career and even in my training, and I owe a lot to that woman. So I would love to work her now that I'm a little bit more developed. So.
Oh, I was actually going to say, you know what? You stole my answer. You stole my answer, Krystal. I was going to say Casey Spinelli, because I've been chasing her around now for about 2 months trying to get her. And every time she's either in the UK or she's moving here, she's in Calgary, she's all over the place.
Oh,
and
she's everywhere.
We keep missing each other through DMs. She'll message me and then I don't check my Instagram right away. Then I go back 2 days later. It's like, shit, I missed it. I message her right away.
Somewhere else in the world.
Yeah, she gets back to me like 3 days later. But I'm going to get her on the show one day. Hand to foot. So if you ever see her or if you talk to her, let her know that Straight Talk Wrestling is coming for her. I don't take no for an answer when I want somebody on the show.
I'll definitely let her know. Like, that woman there for sure has really like helped me, like I said, in my career, and she's like for me a big inspiration. And if I can like be half the wrestler woman she is, I would be happy. So.
Very cool, very cool. I think those would be matched. And you know what? I heard you say you mentioned Jody Threat in a triple threat. Have you worked her one-on-one?
I have, yeah. For a little while at Crossbody, it was her and I for a bit. Like another woman that's literally like tearing it up everywhere she goes, and she's absolutely fantastic inside and outside of the ring. So anywhere Jody is, there's going to be a fantastic match, right? So.
Absolutely. And all of you guys, you, Alexia, Jody, y'all have the look. Y'all look fantastic. Y'all work hard every day, and you can see that. But y'all scare me. And what I mean by that is I would never want to be in a dark alley with any of the three of you, because I know I would walk out with a broken bone or my jaw dislocated.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's funny. But like what I like that the group is we all look different. We all have different styles and our personalities, but we all like mesh really well together, and we're all entertaining. We just take this so seriously, which I really appreciate, is working with people that love wrestling so much and that I just mesh with. So.
Yeah, and you can see that. It comes out, like in the matches with you and Alexia, it comes out in spades. You can see you both want to give it all. You both leave everything out there. And like I said, so far the decisions have not gone your way. But there's going to be a night where the stars align. And the moon is in, full moon status. Huh?
Yeah, exactly.
You like the segue there, right? I'm ramping up the Krystal Moon thing, right?
I loved it. Please do. It's fantastic.
And you're going to get that 1, 2, 3. And it's going to be a shocker, and I just hope that I am in the crowd that day, so I can sit there and I can sit there and I can appreciate you that much more when you reach that level, and you're going to get there. Believe me, I know you will.
Thank you. So, I appreciate that. Thank you.
I'm a big comic book guy. I don't know if you know this about me, but I love comic books. Mm-hmm. And one of my favorite type of comic book was the series called What If. I don't know if you read any of those. But it was...
No, I haven't.
So the concept of the series was you take a situation like, for example, The Punisher. What if his family hadn't been killed? What if Spider-Man never got bit by the spider? What if Daredevil never went blind? And they did these stories to when they weren't... What would happen if they weren't if they weren't heroes.
Okay.
So I always love to do a what if. And my what if with you is, I always do this with everybody, but I'll paint a picture for you if you will. Just go with me. So you go downstairs one morning, you make yourself a cup of coffee or a cup of tea, whatever you like to drink. And you sit down at your kitchen table, you got your bacon, your eggs, your toast, maybe your pancakes, and you're eating. And in front of you sprawled out is 5 contracts. One is to Impact Wrestling. One is to WWE. One is to, because now they're the new girl in town, if you will, AEW. One to Ring of Honor, and one to New Japan Wrestling. And the only reason I mentioned those 5 is because those are the 5 I myself live and breathe for. I love those 5 promotions above anything else.
Yeah.
Which one do you sign with, and who do you work on your very first program? Who do you run with on your very first program out the gate?
God. Whoa, okay. Now, I really got to think about this. So I'd be sitting down, I have my coffee. So I'm vegan, so I would have, my avocado toast with my, my vegan coffee. Oh, God. This is really tough. So when I first started training and wanting to do, wrestling, I thought, you know what? If I'm not signed to the WWE by the time I'm 30, my career's over. And as I've started training, I'm like, you know what? That's not true. I just want to do wrestling. I just want to be happy. That's all I want, right? Mm-hmm. But if I had those 5 contracts, oh my God. Let me think.
Let me make the decision a little easier for you. All 5 contracts are the same amount of money. So there's no difference. There's no difference in pay. They're all the same amount of money. They're all the same schedule. Now you just got to pick which one you want to go with and who you want to run with on your very first program out. If you can't think of one, I can help you. You can throw me a lifeline.
This is really tough. So, I'm stuck. So, I feel like a lot of people would say AEW just because they're the new girl in town and Cody's have so many, amazing talents. And that would be the great one. But I feel like the new girl in town, I'd be, nervous about it. But that's an option. And then I feel like a lot of wrestlers, their dream is to go to WWE, or at least right now NXT. But if I were to sign with NXT, I would probably want to work. I'm a big fan of Mia Yim, huge, huge. So I would love to work her one of my very first matches. So I'm stuck between probably WWE and AEW. But just say WWE. I think Mia Yim would be one of my first that I would want to wrestle on NXT. I'll put her over to the moon.
Well, I have my version of the what if you're okay with it.
Okay, let me hear it, yeah.
Impact Wrestling.
Yep.
Tessa Blanchard.
Oh, my. So I went to the Impact taping in Toronto when they were at the Don Koloff Center. Just watching her, she's fantastic. Everything about her is fantastic. Her gear looks amazing. She's an incredible shape. Her hair is fantastic. I was collecting the gear, and she threw her jacket at me. I was like, this is my life right now. I'm I cannot drop this jacket. I cannot do anything. I'm going to just put it back in the back and make sure nothing happens to it. But yeah, just watching her and she's literally revolutionizing in intergender wrestling and how people see intergender wrestling, right? So
her and
pay-per-view.
Yeah, her and Sami Callihan was just ridiculous.
Oh my God.
Ridiculous.
Oh, yeah.
I could have watched that match for 15, 20 more minutes.
Oh, seriously. I'm so excited to see where they go with that with her and him, right? They have this crazy chemistry, so.
Probably because, she's I've heard that she's nothing but one of the sweetest people in the world, but I've also heard unfortunate bad things about Sami Callihan. I'm not going to speak ill because I've never met the man, but I've heard I heard he could be difficult to work with. We'll leave it at that.
Oh, I'm a really big fan of him. When I first started getting into indie wrestling, so growing up, I honestly had no idea what indie wrestling was. I just literally thought WWE was it at all. And then I started doing my research about like wanting to become a wrestler and everything, right? And I found out about the indies, and I came across him and John Moxley, and their promos together. Like watching them, I'm like, these two are crazy, but I absolutely love it. Like watching them. So like I'm a really big fan of him, and I think I've met him like once or twice, and he's always really polite and really nice. And I have met Tessa, and she's absolutely an amazing human being, and she's such a sweetheart. And I've asked for like advice and everything, so she's great. Yeah.
And it's great when you can get that from the vets who will take the time to speak to someone who's still working and still learning and still trying to get better, and they'll take the time out, because that's what pushes you the most. It was interesting because when I interviewed Ben, he told me of a story of the day before he started his training. He went down to Toronto and he tried to hunt for Chris Jericho, and he actually found him, and he asked Jericho for any piece of advice that he could give him, and Jericho told him, don't let anybody ever tell you can't. Because if I can make it, you can make it.
Exactly.
And that's something that you can see he's carried forward, right? I mean, everything he's doing with Crossbody, but everything he's doing with Impact, his ties into how fantastic he is and how well respected he is in his business.
Yeah.
Ben is one of those people that I myself admire, and he even gave me an opportunity. We were talking after the interview, and he said, what's the next step for you? What's the end goal? I said, for me, it's all about commentating, man. I want to be the next JR. And he's like, all right, here we go. 2 weeks from now, I'm doing this. You're coming out, you're going to do commentary. And I was like, what? What's happening right now? And he did it, and I haven't heard whether good or bad. So I guess no news is good news, right?
Good news, yes. I'm very fortunate to train where I train at Crossbody and call that my home. And my wrestling dad, Ben and Tid always tells us too is everyone starts at zero. Like, that's it. So I remember like my first couple times like training, I was so discouraged because I wasn't like, I played hockey, but I was never really like a super athletic kid. So like a lot of the things I couldn't pick up fast, and there were some people that were like picking it up faster than me, and I was just getting frustrated and very, very discouraged with myself. And he just said, everyone starts at zero. Everyone has felt the way that you felt, but you love this enough that you're going to keep pushing. And I do, and I did. Like, I still have days where I train, and I'm like, what am I doing? Like, my body's not moving the way that I want it to. Like, but I just keep remembering that in my head. And then, like I said, Ben and Tid are so supportive, and Ben just pushing himself to gain new experiences and just love this business as much as he does, and giving us new kids the opportunity to wrestle. Like the Crossbody student showcases are like honestly one of the best things to happen to me, because like I get to work, and I get to work with new people and different people and establish my skills, right? And since they've started, I feel like I've just amplified my in-ring style. So I'm very appreciative to Crossbody for that.
Yeah, and they're extremely, extremely affordable. They're fun. They're great family entertainment. Yeah. I've been to 2 or 3 of them, and I've also been to the Saturday night shows, and both, you really can't tell the difference. Yeah, there might be a bigger name or two on the Saturday night card, but the wrestling is still fantastic. Mm-hmm. So
exactly.
I actually do want to talk to you about kind of a hot button topic these days, and that is we touched on Tessa and Sammy, so that's kind of a segue into my next question. Intergender wrestling, it's had a resurgence in the last couple of years. It's something that is more the norm, because it was a little bit there in the Attitude Era with ECW and all that stuff, and then it kind of faded away, and now it's kind of come back, and it's kind of become very more mainstream, and it's becoming more accepted. But there are still some people on the fence about it. Me, myself, I'm a big fan of intergender wrestling. I actually interviewed Gabriel Fuerza last week, and his episode's dropping just before this one. So I interviewed him, and I asked him, I go, what's your take on intergender? Because he's done that quite a bit. And he told me, he's like, people forget that wrestling is a dance. It's a choreographed number. It's Shakespeare, if you will. And he goes, in real life, you put a guy and a girl in the boxing ring, that's barbaric. But you put a guy and a girl in a wrestling ring, you can make anything seem believable. I could go in a wrestling ring one day as the face and have the girl be the heel, and she'll get the boos and I'll get the cheers, but the next week I'll be the heel and she'll be the face, and it's completely acceptable for me to drive my shoulder into her stomach while she's in the corner. or
Yeah.
have her pick me up. So from your perspective, because this is a great flip flop, if you will, of experiences, or flip flop of what's the word I'm looking for? Opinions. There we go. Flip flop of opinions. So I got his, and I know his stance. But what's your stance? And I've seen you in intergender matches, so I know you have done them. What's your stance on intergender now? Because there are still a lot of people on the fence about it.
Yeah. Honestly, like, I love intergender. I've had the opportunity to work some really great guys. Like, I got to work Gabriel Flares at Crossbody, one of the student showcases. I also recently got to work Aiden Prince, was absolutely incredible. Hands down, probably one of my best matches. He's amazing. And then also I've got to wrestle a lot of my like fellow Crossbody students as well. And then Pretty Ricky Wildy I've got to wrestle as well. So I absolutely love it. It's a whole different ball game and a different story that you get to portray. And I learn different things wrestling guys than I do wrestling girls. And it's just a different story, and that's what wrestling is. It's a more violent story, right? So that the crowd can get behind, and you can, I absolutely love it. The more the merrier. I think a lot of people that don't like intergender wrestling just don't get it. They just see, oh, it's a guy and a girl. It doesn't make any sense. Logically, it doesn't make sense. Well, like, half the time wrestling is not a logical thing. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I come up to a ring and I scream and I have sunglasses on and, like, there's indoors for Pete's sake, you know? But I think a lot of people don't understand it. And I'm gonna go back to, like, a comic book thing. I'm a big X-Men fan.
Nice.
And
nice.
So,
I see a bromance, a brother-sister relationship developing. I love it.
So, like, they would always say, Professor X is people are scared of things that they don't understand, right? Mm-hmm. So, like, maybe intergender wrestling is like the Wolverine of wrestling, right? So people don't understand Wolverine or Rogue, and they're maybe more scared of it because they just don't understand. And I think if more people took the time to really see it as art and to really fully understand it, I think that they would appreciate it more. So
I think that's a great answer. I think you're 100% right on that. You have to sometimes put the judgments away. But see, that's the problem in the world we live in today. Everything is judged. You post something you find funny on Facebook, you may get 20 likes and 5 people saying, well, that's offensive. You know what I mean?
My God,
nobody has thick skin anymore nowadays. Everybody's super sensitive. And the unfortunate thing about the internet, I love the internet. It gives us the power to connect with people all over the world, but it also gives power to the kids who hide behind their keyboards, or the adults that hide behind their keyboards. Keyboard warriors, I call them, because they love to sit there and talk a big game on a keyboard, but get them face to face and they cower. They have nothing to say.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So it's those individuals that I believe don't understand it and don't get it. And
exactly.
I think your answer, as much as Squares' answer, were fantastic. It's what I want to do, because as much as I love showcasing indie talent on my show, I also love educating and getting educated when I can about the business that we love so much. So
that's it. Like,
go ahead.
Recently, it's funny that we're talking about, like, keyboard warriors. I have one picture, a couple months ago, of me wrestling at a student showcase. And I was wrestling another crossbody student, Kyle Brooks, and it was like a lucha rolled over him, and this, like, wrestling fan or whatever said, oh, you're a girl, you could never beat a guy, blah, 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 like, on my comments. And, like, thankfully enough, I have a lot of friends, and Kyle, like, messaged him, like, you don't know what she does, like, you have no idea. I'm like, have you ever seen her? Like, he stood up for me. But, like, these people have no idea. Like, commented on he comments my stuff. Like, oh, you're a girl. You could never beat a guy. I'm like, you have no idea. Like, you know?
That's what I would say at that point. I would message him right back and be like, well, you know what? Why don't you come down to the next showcase? I'll buy your ticket. Yep. I'll sit front row with you. And when the time comes, I'll drag you in that ring. And then we'll see if I can't whoop your ass.
I know. It's just so funny that, like, people that are hiding behind these keyboards, I'm like, hey, I have a thick skin. Say what you want. It's not going to stop me from living my dream. I I chase my dreams. What are you doing, you know? So
criticizing everybody else's. Probably sitting at home living in mom and dad's basement.
Yeah. Yes. That like South Park meme that's always that's what I automatically just think of every time.
Yeah, I think of that one all the time. Or I think of the meme from I'm a big fan of the movie The Office, where it's the guy who's like, you're coming on Saturday and doing some overtime, and since you're coming in on Saturday, you might as well come in on Sunday and do a little catch up. It's like, oh man, my weekends are for chasing my dreams. I have no time to go into work on Saturday and a Sunday. Not going to happen.
Yep.
So in terms of your future and where you see yourself going, what is the next, I'm not going to give a timeline. I'm not going to ask for a 2 or 3 or 5 year plan. What is the next kind of peak or plateau that you want to hit? Or as I steal from Holden Albright all the time, level up moments. What's the next level up moment for Krystal Moon? Where's the next high rise for you?
My next high rise, honestly, like I have a couple answers because there's a couple of like promotions that I would really, really, really want to work for.
Do it. Let's go. Give me all your answers.
Destiny for sure has a great roster. They always put on fantastic shows. And I've helped out at quite a few of them, so hopefully eventually getting there would be great. A1 would be fantastic. And then like Impact, like I've helped out there and I've got the opportunity to do some extra work there as well. So like flipping over from like extra work to like maybe getting like a match or like whatever, right? Being on TV, that would be fantastic. Just because they have a really great roster and they're so close to home with us and a great relationship from there. And then also even just like smaller, a great level, I would love to see more girls training. So I would love to see more girls training at crossbody and like helping them out that way. That would be really great for me as well. And then a little bit on the smaller scale, I would love to hopefully, and I will, crossbody women's champion very, very soon. I was very fortunate enough to be the first woman to hold the title in general at crossbody when I won the Blue Ribbon Championship a couple months ago. So holding the women's title would mean a lot to me just because that's my home and I stuck through a lot of stuff and that division's my baby, right? So being able to have that title would mean a lot to me as well. So
I think those are all obtainable options for you.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, I do, and I think your star's on the rise. Just when those options happen, you got to come back on the show, and we got to do this all over again.
Oh, for 100%, yeah.
So one question, because I hear the passion in your voice, and I love it, and this has been an outstanding interview. I got 2 more questions, then we're going to wrap it up. I'm going to let you enjoy your evening. But if there's a little girl right now listening to this podcast, I'm getting chills saying this, but if there's a little girl listening to this podcast right now and she's kind of falling in love with wrestling for the first time, what would be the one piece of advice you would give to that little girl or even little boy who may be a fan of you that wants to get into the business because they saw you? What would be that one piece of advice that you would give them?
One piece of advice. Honestly, if they wanted to get into it and it's their dream and their passion, go for it. Like never give up on yourself. And just like push. If you believe hard enough in yourself, then you'll make it. Like I struggled a lot with like believing in myself and thinking that I could do this and I could make it. Like I had a lot of self-doubt. But I was very, very, very fortunate enough to have a really great group of people around me, great trainers, great friends, a great gym, everything that have really helped me. And I pushed myself to a point that I am now. So really just never stop believing in yourself. And if you believe you can do it, you can do it. Don't listen to what anybody says. Just do what you love and live your life. If wrestling is your life, live that life, because that's what I did. For the longest time, I lived someone else's life and I was miserable. And, I was successful in my life before, but now here I'm like, I may struggle with bills or whatever, but I'm happy doing what I'm doing around the people that I love and doing what I love. So just push and never stop believing. As cheesy as that is, but it's so true. Like, just believe in yourself.
That's amazing words. And my final question, because it's a little fun, it's a question I always love to do, again, to go with the what-if scenarios. Dream match. Any era, any time period, any wrestler, who would it be?
Oh, okay. Snap. Okay.
It's a hard one, right?
It is. I'm honestly, like, I may have, so I think hands down would probably be just because he is literally my hero. And I remember as a kid watching his DVD over and over and over again. Like, I don't know what knee surgery it was, but Rey Mysterio. I would love to just wrestle Rey Mysterio. Not even just like the wrestling part, but just, I love watching people put matches together and like talking about matches. So like watching and talking to him about, okay, what are we going to do? What do you want to do for here? What is this? Okay, cool. Like just being able to pick his mind even before getting in the ring is like the end all be all for me. So that would probably be like one of my favorites. But honestly, like not more realistic, but like closer to home, I think we've talked about her quite a bit, but she's like the queen, Tessa Blanchard. She's literally the queen right now, and she's fantastic, and the same kind of thing, just picking her mind and see what kind of story she would tell. So, like, yeah, I think those two for sure, but, like, Ray is always going to be my number one answer for most things for wrestling.
All right, Straight Talk Faithful, you heard her. Get the petition going on the internet. Rey Mysterio, Krystal Moon, one-on-one. Make it happen.
Yes!
All right, Krystal, this has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for taking the time out today to talk with me. And like I said, you are officially a member of the Straight Talk family. Anytime you want to come back on the show, you just call me. We'll do it all over again.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you so much.
All right, you enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you.
You too. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye. Well, guys, that was Krystal Moon. That was another great one, as I always do. Next week's episode is going to be good. I want to tell you, but I can't. I'm never going to tell you. You've got to wait, follow the socials, and see what's going on. And don't forget to check out our merchandise on ProWrestlingTees.com. As always, guys, I am the host, George McKay. Thank you so much for listening. Stay safe, guys.
Thank you for listening. Tune in next week for another episode on Spreaker, Stitcher, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, and iHeartRadio. Also follow us on Facebook at Straight Talk Wrestling, on Instagram at Straight Talk Wrestling, and on Twitter at _Straight Talk. And for all our merchandise, you can search us on ProWrestlingTees.com.